Tarik Skubal just filed for $32 million in arbitration. The Tigers countered at $19 million, and that gap is the biggest we've ever seen. If he wins, he resets the market for everyone, maybe even Paul Skenes down the road.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Locked On Pirates, your daily podcast for all things Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan, former editor over at SteelCityPirates.com. Been covering the Pirates since Huntington was in charge. Everydayers, welcome back. Thanks for making me your first listen every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network in all of the land. Today's episode is gonna be what Skubal's arbitration moonshot tells us about Skenes' future arbitration path here in Pittsburgh. Ben Cherrington's checklist for the rest of the offseason. What's signal, what's spin? And then Bregman to the Cubs, how that moves the NL Central goalposts a bit. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right. So, hey, I gotta lay the facts out here about Skubal. First, here's the numbers. Skubal filed for $32 million in arbitration. Detroit filed for 19. That is a $13 million spread. That is the largest in MLB arbitration history. If Skubal wins at hearing, he will break Juan Soto's $31 million single-year arbitration record and the pitcher high water mark of David Price's $19.75 million back in we're going to see what happens. This comes up January 26th through February 13th in Scottsdale. The panel must pick one number. There is no middle ground here. They will not negotiate somewhere in between. It's either going to be the Detroit Tigers have to pay $32 million or he has to play for 19. Either way, not going to make for a very happy player and team relationship, I'd imagine. They're professionals. You'd hope they'd all get through it, but ouchies, right? So I had an AMA question here about this. If arbitration still exists when Skenes hits arbitration, does Skubal's $32 million become the baseline for Skenes, or is Paul in a category by himself? So let's kind of talk through this a little bit, this whole situation. Arbitration, it's a stepladder. Traditionally, awards climb via comps within the same service class, not necessarily free agent mega deals. And that's why Soto's $31 million and Price's $19.75, they're pivotal rungs along the history of arbitration. They anchor the top of the ladder for hitters and pitchers, right? And Skubal and Boras here, what they're trying to do is raise the ladder ceiling. Because instead of competing with other arbitration eligible pitchers in the last year of arbitration who've done relatively well, there aren't a lot of comps for guys who have been finalists for the Cy Young and winners for the Cy Young 2 years in a row. It's going to be a lot of money, and you're setting the market. And they decided to comp it to the free agent market. And there's nothing, nefarious about that. He probably is worth that kind of money. But it is a departure from what usually happens in arbitration. This is very extreme. Even Juan Soto stepped his way there. This is quite the jump. Skubal has 5 years of service. So his side can cite player comps from anybody they want, even elite free agent pitchers. They can argue his value. It's uncommon. It's the whole point. Reset the norms for late stage arbitration when the resume is Cy level. Like, the panel still has to weigh the comps and production, but with Skubal, how are you gonna possibly say that he's not a comp for those other players? I mean, my core takeaway here really is this is really the result of 2 All-Star Cy Young seasons in years 4 and 5 of team control. Now, Paul Skenes is still getting paid, more than league minimum, but nowhere near what his production causes. Look, he's been a finalist for Cy Young and Rookie of the Year. He's won the Cy Young in his first 2 years, and he's been the All-Star twice. I think you could argue that he has at least matched Tarik Skubal. He didn't win 2 Cy Youngs, but Rookie of the Year and a finalist in 1 year, won it the second. He's done that already in his first 2 years. I could argue that his first year of arbitration should be whatever Skubal wins here. And that is very abnormal for baseball. And that'll really be what breaks this model. Because the idea of the arbitration model is that you, as a team that cannot afford a player like this, you've won the lottery. You drafted a player like that. The only way you get a talent like that, if you're not going to pay them the big bucks, is to get them via the draft. Well, why do you want that? Well, you want them for years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and potentially 7 at a reasonable cost. Well, I'm not saying that this will absolutely change everything down the chain, and it's still going to take an exceptional player. Like, we're only having this discussion about Paul Skenes. I'm not having this discussion about, Carmen Majinski. I don't think whatever happens with Skubal affects that at all. But if you want to kind of see into the future a little bit with Paul Skenes, I think what you're kind of going to come to is that he's going to get expensive really quick. And if he wants to, he's got a case where he could comp himself to a free agent pitcher. Now, he's got to be a little careful. The team does have control of you for however many years. And yeah, you could win it. But, I mean, a team like the Pirates, are they going to do that for 3 years? You might. I mean, he might be worth that. These are even distasteful conversations for some people to have. You don't want to have to think about this stuff, but Paul Skenes, depending on how vindictive he would want to be. Imagine he puts another Cy Young season on the table this year. Now you've got 3 in a row to start his career. Now you go to arbitration for the first time. In a normal progression of player, you're kind of looking at I don't know, he's a really good player. 8, 9, 10 million. You're looking at that's a really fair first go at arbitration, big guy. You see those things fairly often for very good players, very good promising players that you've probably already tried to extend 3 or 4 times. But Paul, by all rights, could look at the market, look around the league, know he's the best pitcher in baseball, and force their hand a little bit. Because the Pirates have the same exact kind of system where both sides put in their bid and there's no negotiation in between. If he wants to outbid their bid by 15 million or so, I am not going to sit here and tell you he couldn't win it. It's really the result of when Tarik Skubal had these 2 great years that we're getting to this point. You just do not get to this point very often. It's so easy to look back on Soto and Price because they're very definitive points in the timeline where this sort of thing got challenged. And the other thing too is it's happening in these smaller market teams because they're the ones that just couldn't go forward with getting the dumb extension done. Or the player has an agent that doesn't have any interest in ever getting an extension done with an original club because they feel that this process is vital to getting the overall pay scales up in the league. Scott Boras. I mean, and now, he's going to use the arbitration process. And you know what? In all sincerity, going into this CBA, as was mentioned in the original AMA that prompted a little bit of this discussion, yeah, it really could all change. And then that's kind of like how everything changes. You're capable of keeping a guy like Skenes now. Maybe that's how everything changes. This whole arbitration process maybe goes away in the CBA entirely. And all of this work is for relatively nothing for Scott. We'll see. Look, the binary nature of arbitration is meant to force realistic asks. Skubal's ask is aggressive because his resume is aggressive. If he wins, the ceiling moves. If he loses, the top end for pitchers still inches up because he's almost certain to set the largest pitcher salary in arbitration history either way. That alone changes future comps. Next, what the GM just told us and what he actually plans to do with the left side of the infield and the rotation. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts a little bit more. Whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback player coaching, the boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your pick, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Ye Old Locked On Pirates. And before I jump back in, let's go Steelers. Let's go Steelers tonight. Please get it done. Please get it done. Please get it done. It would just be so great for this city. You could just feel the energy. It hasn't felt like this in a long time here in Pittsburgh for a playoff game, and pretty excited this time, and I can't wait for it. Before we get back to show content, hey, quick shout out to the Everydayer Club. Go ad free, join our Discord, support the show for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Hit that Supercast link down in the show notes if you don't mind. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Cherrington is still adding. Here's his little checklist, that came up at the Ryan O'Hearn presser. Ben Cherrington said they're not satisfied and there's more they want to do. The remaining priorities: add another starter, perhaps bullpen, and one more position player, preferably on the left side of the infield. He also noted the Pirates can trade from a position of pitching depth. Why the urgency on bats? He said in 2025, the Pirates ranked at or near the bottom in home runs, RBI, slug, OPS. You guys have all known that for a long time. Adding O'Hearn and Brandon Lau is meant to provide cover for Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz and build a lineup that manager Don Kelly believes could be formidable. They expressed confidence in Jared Triolo and Nick Gonzalez, with Connor Griffin getting a real look this spring, but that still leaves room for an external third base or a shortstop. if the fit and price are right. Names floated, at least that I heard by some people recently. Isaac Paredes, you guys have heard me talk about him. Alec Bohm, potential trade partner. You guys have mentioned him ad nauseum, and we have covered him as well. On the mound, Cherrington has a pattern of signing veteran left-handed inning eater guys, like Tyler Anderson, Jose Quintana, Rich Hill, Martin Perez, the list goes on. We kind of beat this already. Some options out there besides the ones I've mentioned already. Nestor Cortez, somebody brought up to me. That's an interesting one. He might cost a little bit more than like a Jose Quintana, but he's also done a little bit more recently. Although I still do like landing on I really do like landing on Quintana. I think that's probably the best case scenario as far as the veteran ads go. Public checklist to me is pretty clear. The spin's going to be whether they convert the left side bat and one more starter before mid-February. Given they already leveraged pitching depth to add Lowe and Hearn, I guess you can expect another trade based on what he said, but boy, I'm not 100% sure or sold that I think it's a smart move. I'm not so sure I feel the same way he does about the pitching depth being something that they can move from at this point. I don't know where he sees that. I think if I'm very optimistic, I see it. But if I'm, I don't want to say pessimistic, but somebody that's watched some baseball seasons unfold, I personally think if you're talking depth, meaning like organizational, and you want to move something that's a lot further away from the league, okay, maybe I'm more open to that then. Then I can consider you trading from an area of strength and be okay with it. Another guy that you could consider really is Jared Triolo himself. Listen, the Pirates clearly think he can do some things, but like if he's part of a package to get another deal done and ultimately you don't see him as a starter anyway, the fine defense has a pedigree to it that will sell. And there are enough people that will at least be able to see the hallmarks of what they believe are breakout points in his offense. I know this team does. Nick Gonzalez is another guy. You're not going to use him, and you're going to bring other guys in to play second base, and you have a hot prospect who just figured out how to hit lefties last year, barreling up behind him in Termar Johnson for the only position that he can play. Well, Nick Gonzalez becomes a guy that you can trade too. And they've got a few others like that. So, I mean, the Pirates have some room to trade here that doesn't have to be a named pitcher. The last thing I wanted to touch on here, and Ben Cherrington didn't mention this, so let's kind of shut this off from the conversation of Ben Cherrington directly telling us what he's doing. But I think we can comfortably put to bed the conversation about trading Mitch Keller right now. I've seen some awfully creative ways to do it out there. And you're right. In fact, I even had an AMA, somebody emailed me that I promised I would get to at some point. Mitch Keller being traded and then signing somebody like Framber Valdez to replace him is basically the same as, and he called it girl math, not me. He did, not me. But he said, wouldn't that be kind of like basically getting Framber Valdez for $15 million? Well, I mean, I understand the logic to that thinking, but you ultimately still would have to go and get another pitcher then to replace the innings that you still needed with Mitch Keller, who's kind of known as an innings guy. So to me, I just think the path to do what is being suggested is probably ill-fated. I don't think the Pirates should do that. In fact, I think it would be taking an unnecessary risk. You'd really have to be convinced that Bubba Chandler is not going to have any hiccups whatsoever. In fact, you better be convinced he's going to be right in the running for Rookie of the Year, because he would need to put up that kind of season. And keep in mind, Rookie of the Year is not the same as Cy Young. But to be considered as a pitcher, you got to be pretty good and consistent and healthy, and you got to deliver innings, and that's what I think you would need out of Bubba Chandler this year. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I am saying I wouldn't want to expect lightning to strike 3 or 4 times, and for me to consider the Pirates ready or capable of moving on from a Mitch Keller without adding a minimum of 2 good pitchers. You'd have to get a Framber Valdez and another, and I don't mean another Framber Valdez, but you'd have to get another solid starter. And then you could go with your youth after that. Because if you expect Bubba Chandler to do that, and Hunter Barco, or Thomas Harrington, or Sean Sullivan, or whoever, Braxton Ashcraft even, I just think you're asking for an awful lot. There's a reason we remember the rotation, that young gun rotation of the Atlanta Braves of the early 90s. And it's not just because they kicked our butts once. It's because it was unfathomable to see Avery, Glavine, Smoltz all come together, all that young core just boom, boom, boom. Where did that come from? That's not the way it's supposed to work, right? So it's not like it's impossible. It's not like we haven't seen it before. We saw it with the Oakland Athletics years ago with Mulder and Zito and all those guys. It can happen. And that's the hope. That's the hope and prayer that this happens this year. But that's exactly what it is and remains, my friends, a hope and prayer. That's a lot to ask of 3 rookies, virtual rookies. You know, Ashcraft has not been a starter for a full season. Granted, his rookie will be exceeded, but that's a lot to ask of 3 rookie starters, anchored by a third-year guy. I just think you're thinking a little bit too monopoly money with some of what you consider depth. If you think you can concoct a way this team's gonna pull a 2-for-1 and slip Keller out the door for a superstar pitcher and another good one. I just think you're asking more than you're gonna get, but that's on you. You wanted a higher bar for the division. I bet you didn't. But the Cubs just might have gone ahead and given it to you anyway. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Bregman to the Cubs sets a new bar, man. It does. Alex Bregman and the Chicago Cubs agreed to 5 years, $175 million, full no trade, no opt-out deal. Reporting indicates roughly $70 million of that will be deferred, bringing the effective AAV near 30 to 31 million for CBT purposes. For Chicago, this replaces lost star power. I mean, this helps replace losing Kyle Tucker. And it raises expectations. You can argue it vaults them past the Brewers on paper today, especially with their concurrent pitching move for Edward Cabrera. Roster ripples for the Cubbies. You could see them slide Matt Shaw or Nico Horner out to accommodate Bregman. They could cash out one of those two to deepen themselves elsewhere. I mean, that's the kind of leverage that you buy with the $175 million middle of the order Gold Glove caliber defender that you sign. For Pittsburgh, if your North Star was win the Central, well, the delta just widened. Cherrington's left side bat pursuit is now more than a wish list. It's the practical response to a rival that just invested 9 figures to raise both floor and playoff equity. I mean, like, I think that it's very clear the Chicago Cubs have set the pace here. I don't ever like to overlook the Milwaukee Brewers. I make that mistake just about every time I look at their roster, and I wonder where the power is coming from, and I wonder who's playing what position. And boy, I can't believe they're relying on that rookie there. And and how are they going to find the innings? Where is the pitching coming from? And the pitching always comes. And so I don't want to discount the Milwaukee Brewers just because they haven't made any flashy moves and still could potentially trade Freddie Peralta, believe it or not. But man, the Cubs, I think, just filled their only glaring hole. I really think third base, and it wasn't that bad. They had Matt Shaw, a young, promising power hitter. I really like a lot of Matt Shaw. I think they still might use him in a DH role somehow, or over at second base. Nico Horner is a slick fielder who maybe more of an average hitter as opposed to a home run hitter. Maybe they just want a little more pop in the lineup throughout, and Matt Shaw wrestles that job away from Nico Horner. You could see this work out a couple different ways for the Cubbies. It definitely changes the dynamic at the top, and it certainly changes the target to me. I actually, aside from being right-handed as opposed to left-handed, I think I like this acquisition for them better than retaining Tucker, because I think it answers a question that they just didn't have an answer to. They just did not have an answer to third base that was going to, I think, be playoff level yet. I think Shaw can get there. I just don't think that the team as currently constructed had the patience to wait for that to develop, or the inclination that it was just going to take a big jump this year and take them to the next step, So they did what you're supposed to do. They finally spent some money. The Cubbies don't do that. And they're a big market team. They don't spend with the big boys usually. And this is definitely that. As far as the Pirates go, man, you got to address it, I think. I think when we talked about like Eugenio Suarez kind of being like that'd be great, but well, I think if I'm Ben Cherrington and I really do think that I want or I can target the division, which looking at your pitching staff, they're the reason you're doing this. You've added a couple big bats, and there's no reason to look at what you've built yet because you haven't played any games yet. There's no reason to look at what you built, the expectations you have for what you're retaining, and think that the division is still there, so long as you fill the holes that you yourself just outlined in the Ryan O'Hearn press conference. You told us what's empty. We know it. You know it. I think, in a way, it's very refreshing. Nobody's hiding behind it. They're coming out and saying what they think they need to do. For the most part, I think all the talking heads, me included, agree. I think the dispute ultimately will be, how much did we agree? I mean, I think some people's targets are going to be a lot higher. The next big conversation is going to be, where does Bo Bichette land? Because Bo Bichette is probably not a shortstop, but he could be a third baseman, and he could be a second baseman. And he's going to still have a big market. I don't know if he's going to get what he's asking for. I've heard something up in the $300 million range. I don't know if he'll get that. I think maybe if he could stick at shortstop for sure, he'd definitely get it, but I don't know if he gets that with just a little bit of defensive uncertainty there. But he's not like unplayable. So he should get some money. Should the Pirates be in on him? I mean, let's be real. Like, should they be in on him? That's probably what, $25 million? I'd put a cap of $25 million on Bichette. I wouldn't pay more than that. So see what you can do. I doubt it'll get it done. Suarez seems like the target. everything seems to point to Suarez. My friends with the Reds want nothing less than the Pirates to get Eugenio Suarez. I would tend to think they kind of know the guy. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe we quit farting around with all these trades we could do. Or pull a big swing trade with the Cardinals, convince Arenado to come over, solve third base for a couple years. Won't be great, but it'll be better than what you got. You'll at least be able to say you brought in a former All-Star to try to compete, right? I don't know what the answer is here, guys. We've gone through third base ad nauseum. I feel like we've discussed every option under the sun. I don't think Alec Bohm is a direct answer for Alex Bregman coming into this division. Really, Suarez is the last swing at it. Unless you're making an uncomfortable trade for a guy that doesn't look to be loose. That's where I'm at. This was a good conversation today. A lot of great topics. Thanks to the Pirates for doing something cool over the weekend. So we had a lot to talk about. And man, this Skubal thing really is fascinating. I truly wonder how it's going to work. Arbitration is supposed to be a step stool. Skubal brought a ladder. Cherrington says he's still shopping. Now the Cubs have shown you the price tag for staying in the race. I don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow because we need to figure out what the Pirates do. And who knows what mood I'll be in after the Steelers game this evening. Listen, we're serious about Pirates baseball because somebody has to be. Let's go Bucks.